we talked off the top about DeSean Jackson and his anti-Semitic comments, as well as discussing that with Jeff Schwartz. We just finished it. Jeff Schwartz, 8-year NFL veteran who also happens to be Jewish, got his take on that. In general, my perspective is pretty straightforward on this. If you are obsessed, as NFL players claim to be, with making the world a better place through the Players Coalition, with condemning racism and hate everywhere you see it, how in the world has the Players Coalition not condemned DeSean Jackson's comments? One of the things that is important, I think, in athletics is we in America talk about race very often like it's 1965. In other words, it's perpetually the civil rights movement. There are angry, racist white people, and there are completely innocent black people, and we constantly go through that same storyline over and over and over again. But America in 2020 is not remotely like America in 1965. This country is infinitely more diverse. Black people aren't even the largest minority group in the United States. Hispanics are. And so my argument is that our national conversation on race is very often a two-way conversation, and it's focused on white oppression and black victimization. And it's very easy to perpetually be the victim because that allows you to constantly play the empathy card, the woe is me card. But the national discussion about race, if it were more intelligent, would be much more expansive than black and white. And what I have said for a long time on this program is there are racist people who are black, white, Asian, or Hispanic. The idea that only white people can be racist is ingrained in many ways in the way that media covers racism. And very often that leads to a stilted and broken conversation on race, because it's like black people saying, well, accept the blame, white person. And the white person is like, okay, I'm sorry that my ancestors did racist things. It's like, that's not good enough. You need to really accept the blame. And you're like, okay, I was born in 1980. I went to integrated schools. I don't like racism. That's not enough. You have to condemn it more. You have to be an anti-race. And it's just white people being lectured about why they suck. And a lot of white people are like, okay, but there's a lot of stuff going on out here in the world. The entire country is not defined by slavery that existed legally for 80 years. From 1783 to 1863. That's how long the United States of America had slavery, 80 years. 1783, when America won its independence officially from Britain, to 1863, January 1st of 1863, when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. If you have a problem with slavery before 1783, then your issue is with the British government, because the United States were part and parcel of Britain, and it was the British government that permitted slavery in the United States colonies. If you have an issue with the 80 years of slavery, well, we went to war. Hundreds of thousands of people died to end slavery. And then we had the Civil Rights Movement, which is one of the greatest success stories in the history of America. And that ended in the 1960s. And now 50 years later, we have the Players Coalition, let's say, in the NFL. And the Players Coalition is supposedly focused on trying to end hate and racism. But really, it seems like all they want to do is rip white people when they say things that are inappropriate. Why has the NFL Players Coalition not said a single word about DeSean Jackson's Instagram post? You got Malcolm Jenkins, right? Was it Malcolm Jenkins or Malcolm Butler? What's the guy's name who was crying over Drew Brees? Malcolm Jenkins? Yeah. Malcolm Jenkins went on Instagram crying when Drew Brees said, that he was going to stand for the national anthem because he thought kneeling was disrespectful to the flag. Why would Drew Brees think that? Because Colin Kaepernick said, I refuse to stand for the flag during the national anthem in his statement immediately after refusing to stand for the national anthem. It was and is about the flag in Colin Kaepernick's own words. You can agree or disagree with Drew Brees, but Malcolm Jenkins immediately posts an Instagram video crying over another man's opinion about the national anthem. And the media grabs it and runs with it, and it's a huge story. What has the Players Coalition said about DeSean Jackson's anti-Semitic comments? Not one single word. Well, if you've created this entire business for yourself as a member of the Player Coalition like Malcolm Jenkins, how is it that he can't say a single word condemning what DeSean Jackson said? Shouldn't the NFL players be in the business of condemning racism and hate wherever it occurs, even if a black man is responsible for it, as opposed to just waiting for a white person to blame? And this goes to the larger context of blame. The internet is basically one big blame factory. I don't believe in cancel culture. I don't think DeSean Jackson should lose his job because he said something insanely stupid, which he did, on Instagram. But I think the standard for DeSean Jackson should be the same whether he's black, white, Asian, or Hispanic. Precedents matter. The way to end racism is by not treating people differently. It's by treating everyone the exact same. This is what gets people upset with me and what my show. It's also why our show is skyrocketing in popularity, because so many people talk out of different sides of their mouth. And if you come here and you spend time with me and you listen, you're like, man, this dude Clay Travis, he talks to black, white, Hispanic, and Asian people the exact same. I don't believe that DeSean Jackson should lose his job for his racist, anti-Semitic, stupid comments, just like I don't think that your average person should lose their job because they said something stupid on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or Snapchat, or some other social media device, or because some video goes viral. We're not helping the country get better by constantly being a circulating mob of violence, insisting that somebody get tarred and feathered and lose their job over what they say. The way to make the country better is to welcome people who make mistakes and allow them to learn and make fewer mistakes going forward. Think about the way you raise your children. I got 3 of them, 12, 9, and 5. When they do dumb things, I don't cancel them. This is not the way you would parent. When your kid comes to you and they have done something dumb, what do? Something stupid. You hope that they're going to learn from what they did. That's what humanity is, a constant attempt to make ourselves better, even though we're all imperfect. Nobody cancels their kids, at least not somebody who's actually remotely intelligent. I don't imagine very many people cancel their parents or cancel their brothers and sisters, literal brothers and sisters. When somebody says something dumb at Thanksgiving dinner, at least if you're a functional, smart human being, you don't. You try and talk with them and explain why you disagree with what they did and why it was potentially hurtful, and hope that they can grow from it and avoid making that mistake again. I'll tell you what, the toughest thing about being a parent isn't when your kids screw up. It's when they keep screwing up and doing the same thing wrong over and over again. I'm getting fired up even thinking about it. You know what I'm talking about, Mom and Dad? It's not a new screw up. It's doing the same thing wrong again and again and again. That's when sometimes you lose your temper. You little knucklehead. This is exactly what I told you not to do earlier today, or yesterday, or last week, or the month before. But the first time that your kid makes a mistake, you don't even cancel them even if they keep making the same stupid mistake over and over again because they're your kids and you love them. But the first time that your kid makes a mistake, it's a learning experience. It's a learning opportunity. DeSean Jackson said something really dumb. If the Players Coalition is truly interested in actually making the country and the world and athletics better, shouldn't they be issuing a statement here? Shouldn't they be condemning DeSean Jackson's comments, even though he's a black guy talking about Jewish people? If this was a Jewish person saying something negative about black people, the Players Coalition would be up in arms. They would be losing their mind. If it was a Jewish GM or a Jewish coach or a Jewish owner and they had said something equally as offensive involving black people, the players, Malcolm Jenkins would be crying, tears streaming down his face. He put up a video 10 seconds after this post went viral. It's what he did when Drew Brees said he was going to stand for the national anthem and he thought it was disrespectful not to. But DeSean Jackson says it, and there's absolutely crickets from every single NFL player. Not one player has said a negative word about DeSean Jackson and his anti-Semitic comments. Steven Jackson, who people were trying to turn into a hero just a couple of weeks ago because he was George Floyd's friend, actually endorsed what DeSean Jackson said. It's amazing. You guys notice this double standard? You notice this silence is as glaring to you, Danny G, as it is to me?
Yeah, it's starting to become what we had a few years back. Remember when your wife told you she just wanted the entire Colin Kaepernick thing to be over?
Yeah.
I cannot wait for sports to be back on the court in the field.
You know what? But I think there are a lot of people out there listening to us right now that are like, I want sports to be back. There's 100% certainty about that. But it's going to be the most political sports has ever been, and you're not going to be able to just kick back and have a beer and watch games.
Do you think it's going to last, though?
I don't know. I think it's bad for business. I think it's bad for business for leagues to, I think, and you guys can disagree with me, but I think the average person who wants to watch a game wants to watch that game specifically to escape what's going on Fox News, what's going on CNN,
yes,
what's going on MSNBC. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being engaged with politics or being desperately interested in it. There isn't. But I think when your average person sits down to watch an NFL or NBA or college football or NHL, Major League, but whatever it is, whatever sport you like, I think they do so to escape the serious things in their life. And so I believe that if sports embraces politics, it is awful for the business of sports. And some of you are going to say, well, you mix the two, Clay, on your show, and it seems to work for you, but there's a difference. I don't have to talk to every sports fan in America every day. By the way, I wish I did, because I'd make a lot more money. I wish I was the only sports talk radio station in the entire country, and every single sports fan had to listen to me. If that were the case, then I probably would never mention anything other than scores of games, assuming we actually had games, and also I would try to avoid politics as much as possible. Because my assumption would be everybody is coming to me to escape the serious things in their lives. But the reason why you listen to me now is because you value my opinion. And certainly because we haven't had team sports since March, that's my opinion on what the coronavirus impact might be. That's my opinion on what's going on in a variety of different aspects around the world. And so I don't have to talk to every single person in the world of sports. But if I did, if I owned a team, or if I were a player, or if I were a coach, I'd be like, man, the best thing the NFL could do this fall is not mention politics 1 second, because people are so desperate for football to be back. That's the best way to appeal to the largest possible audience. If individual players on their Instagram accounts or their Twitter feeds or when they talk to the media want to advocate for what they believe in, more power to them. They're citizens. But I'm talking about in the game itself and involving the pregame festivities and everything else, I don't think the average person wants 1 ounce of politics. And I think that's going to be even more the case in 2020 because it's going to be an election season and because Biden versus Trump is going to be such an all-encompassing battle that I think so many people are going to be like, dude, I want a beer, I want to kick my feet up, and I just want to watch a game. And I think the players are going to make that impossible. Dub, do you think it's interesting that a guy like Malcolm Jenkins, 10 seconds after Drew Brees makes his comments, is literally crying on a video over Drew Brees' national anthem comments, and yet he, as the Players Coalition head, and all these other players, not one of them has a single thing to say about DeSean Jackson's anti-Semitic comments?
I mean, yeah, it's definitely interesting. It's, kind of just a blatant hypocrisy, if you ask me. If you're going to fight for justice for all, I mean, that's not justice for all if you're not going to even mention any of the things that DeSean Jackson said. But as far as the upcoming sports calendar that is about to be pretty awesome, in my opinion, just for the fact that we're going to have so many sports going on and
simultaneously.
Yeah, exactly. The political side of things, I mean, I think it's just
impossible. Do you
impossible.
agree that it's going to be the most political sports have ever been?
Oh, my God. It's going to make 2016 look like a walk in the park, in my opinion.
And I think most people are going to be like, God, this is insufferable, and I think it's bad for the overall brand of sports.
Absolutely. And it made me think, the 2 most popular athletes, I think, of the last 30 or 40 years are Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods.
Yep.
I'm not sure I've heard either one of those guys ever say a single word about politics, and I think that has obviously been a reason why they're so popular. People can trust that they're going to watch their game or their round of golf, and they're not going to get any politics. They're going to get the sport. They're going to watch them be great at what they do, and that's what people watch sports for. I think you're exactly right. People just want to have a beer on Sunday afternoon, watch their favorite NFL team, and escape and relax for a few hours, and that's not going to be possible this year.
I would also add, by the way, Peyton Manning to that list, because if you look at pitchmen, I think you could make a strong argument that Michael Jordan is the greatest sports endorser of all time. If you look at all the commercials that he did, I think number 2 is Peyton Manning, and Tiger Woods might be number 3 in terms of their impact and value. I could be wrong. I don't remember Peyton Manning ever saying a single thing about politics either. Like, those 3 guys are arguably the 3 most popular figures in athletics today in terms of their value as brand spokespersons. And Tiger obviously had the off the golf course related controversies. But if you look at those 3 dudes, Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, Peyton Manning, I mean, I'm not saying they've never said anything, but it's like Peyton Manning and Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan are opposed to cancer and racism. Like things that virtually everybody's in favor of. I couldn't tell you one strong political statement any of them have made otherwise, and I think it's been great for their brands. Eddie, what do you think about this entire picture in general?
It is very disappointing that it doesn't. Well, let's put it this way. The slogan is Black Lives Matter, and it seems that's also the attitude of a lot of the athletes, is that only Black Lives Matter. And if you were say something bigoted or hateful towards any other lives, they don't care, because if they cared, that they wouldn't be silent. Now we'll see if anybody comes out and speaks today.
The entire league, not one person has said a word about what DeSean Jackson said.
And that says a lot.
And imagine, I just saying to flip it. Imagine that it is a low level. It doesn't even have to be a GM or a coach or an owner. If it's a low level player, or God forbid, a low level coach or anything else, and they say the equivalent of what DeSean Jackson said about Jewish people, they say that equivalent about black people, the entire NFL is in an uproar. DeSean Jackson says it about Jewish people. There's not a single comment from a single player in the entire NFL.
It's incredibly disappointing. I mean,
and again, I'm not saying, and I don't think anybody on the show believes that DeSean Jackson should lose his job. I don't believe in cancel culture.
Well, but I would say there's a difference between cancel culture and holding people accountable for
Amen.
That's
what I'm saying. I mean, I'm saying the standard to me, precedent matters, and that's what you'll learn if you are listening to this show. I think of myself as almost like Judge Clay. The way that I'm going to respond to stories, if you were like writing them as judicial opinions, a judge's opinions have to be based on the law. You can't just make a decision up out of nothing because the precedent that you set matters going forward. And the NFL precedent, and frankly, the precedent of athletes in general, are completely hypocritical. And I think that's an ultimate indictment of their overall legitimacy, that the DeSean Jackson situation can happen and not one NFL player has condemned it. Not one. And I want you to just think about how it would be different if instead of condemning Jews, imagine that a NFL player said something on Instagram that was equally as offensive to black people. The entire league would come undone.
And I don't think people are expecting Malcolm Jenkins to cry about what DeSean Jackson said.
Well, first of all, no grown man should cry over the opinion of another grown man.
But to not even make a comment at all about it, to not even a tweet saying, hey, by the way, just for the record, you know, I do not stand for what DeSean Jackson said, and that was wrong. Just that, just something simple like that. Nothing.
Yeah. Silence. Crickets.